Question. So one of the things I hear quite a lot regarding owning a house is, leasehold, freehold, all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And it's normally accompanied by, oh, why would you invest in this or buy this if you're going to have to give it up in a so years or you don't really own it? I'm not too clued up on the whole mortgage and buying a house thing myself, but I'd like to know more. So can you kind of like elaborate on that? So what are like the pros and cons of buying a house?
The pros and cons. So the cons obviously is the fact that you've got a debt. Like if you're using it through financing, that is anyways. Like so, we're talking about financing because obviously, if you've got £1 million, you could buy a house. I don't know. Can you guys see a con? If you're a millionaire and you bought a house cash, do you know what I mean? Like really, I mean, unless you can formulate one. But in terms of using finance to buy a house,
right?
The con would be the fact that obviously you've got now a big debt that you're responsible for. So obviously you're responsible for the bills that you pay, you're responsible for your mobile bills, you're responsible for all types of things. But the difference between those type of things is that if those things are pulled from your rug, like T-Mobile says, you're not paying no more, you know what I mean? You lose your phone, you get another one. You lose your house, you're homeless, You lose your house, and not only are you homeless, your credit rating is pretty much mashed up. So that's one of the cons, is that there's a big responsibility that's going to be in your head.
Right.
And you have to pay come rain or shine, no matter what the weather is, basically. So if you're sick, pay me. You get me? Have you watched Goodfellas when he's like where they do the bust out of the restaurant, and the guy's like, look, whatever the situation is, you have to pay me.
Regardless.
If you're sick, fuck you, pay me. If you're this, if you pay me. The bank works like that, but even colder, because there's no human being you can talk to. Literally, it's a case of the payments due. Oh, I broke my leg. That's your problem.
You signed the contract.
You signed the contract, you have to pay. But there's provisions in there. Obviously, we always recommend you keep, a nice stack there in case of periods of unemployment, which is one of the things that affect people. Obviously, there's also getting insurances out in case you get sick, like what they call it, income protection. So you can get yourself a set amount of income paid to you if you're to be sick or have an accident that stopped you from doing your actual job. Then you've got other things. Obviously, you've got children, both of you. So if God forbid you were to pass away, that mortgage will be paid off. If you were to pass away, or if you're to get a critical illness, or maybe you get cancer or have a loss of a limb, then you can get that. You can get something paid off as a lump sum for the property. So those kind of help with the drawback. But obviously, not everyone believes in those type of things. But those help with those drawbacks. Now the positives are basically you now got an asset. Now, like the way it works in this world is that there's reality and there's a system. You understand? Now, with owning properties and owning assets, that is reality. Because from the dawn of man, before England was called England, before you were born, before I was born, before your everyone's needs to have a house. Yeah. Everyone needs to have some type of what do they call it? Shelter. Now, obviously, we've overcomplicated shelter to the point where now, you have to get financing to get shelter in certain parts of the ends because it's so expensive. But shelter is one of the main things. Food, shelter, protection. There's certain basic things that humans need as a necessity, and it just makes sense as a pro that you want to be able to own your shelter. You don't want to have a situation where next man can come tell you have to get out of your shelter. So if you own the shelter, the thing about finances, although you have to pay, you get me, the bank to for the money they loaned you, the bank don't really care what you do to your house. They don't care if you paint it red or pink. They just want to make sure that you don't break the house and you live in it, which you'll be doing. So that's one of the benefits. And the other benefit is obviously you've got something to leave behind for your family, because you're not going to be here forever. And at one point, you're gonna want your family to have the ability to step up. And I'll be honest with you, a lot of the clients that I see that are young, like let's say young being my age and below, their families are putting them on bigly because it's hard to save up a decent amount of money to get yourself ready for a property. So you'll be doing your family a favor moving forward, because if you can get yourself a house now, then you help your family using that house to help them, then they could do the same thing. And by the time you know it, none of your generations will ever be homeless, basically, if you put things right and pattern it right. Hence why there's no point in writing a will, you hit me, if you ain't got nothing to give back. You can't say, I got a stack of 50k. No, they'll hand that out quickly. But you got an asset, like a property, that's something where a will is like, yeah, you need a will for that. You know what I mean?